So I'm coming into Lindsay Park. This is one of many entrances to the park. Straight ahead is 2nd Street, and beyond that, where you see cars going by, is 4th. I think the temperature is around 20, low 20s. I think we're going to get to around 23 or 24 today. Hard to believe that during the flood of 2013, water was up on the deck of this bridge. Basically, this river was a couple of kilometers wide. It flooded out the entire park and everything over here. So, I could go that way, but I'm going to go this way. Now, after the flood, they erected this fence. And prior to the flood, the entire area beyond that fence was well kept, and there was, you know, picnic tables, and it's being sort of let to grow wild. And they put a nature path through here, and in fact, I might even walk down there. And I have my camera set to fairly linear. I don't have the entire panoramic range engaged. I find that fisheye really distorts things, and even with it linear, there's a linear plus, but even with linear setting, it still has a bit of that fisheye. But yeah, prior to this little path being here, this was all grass, well kept. That'd be 12 years ago. I could climb through here. Oh. There's a couple of nice little spots. Hey, like a little beach, see? And to my left is the old Holy Cross Hospital. It used to be a provincially run government of Alberta hospital, but it was sold to 3 doctors. I guess back, gotta be almost 25 years ago or more now. Water looks nice and clean, clear. Yeah, it's a beautiful little park. I shouldn't say little, it's fair size. And actually, part of this park, if you continue taking the pathway south, will take you into Roxboro Park. Yeah. And when our cat Floyd was young, we would put him on a leash. You know, when he was a few months old, maybe up to about 2 years old, we'd bring him here and he'd walk along the top. And I'm not shooting in 4K. I could, but I'm just shooting in 1080p. Yeah, you can see how low this river is. It will get higher. Yeah, usually this is all covered with water. You can pretty much walk across this. And this kind of meanders for a ways. I'll stop for now. And about 50 meters up from where I paused, we're getting towards the end of this little trail. There's a lot of construction happening up here. Lindsay Park Aquatic Center has a couple of Olympic-sized pools, diving tanks, platforms, an elevated oval running track. Just a lot of facilities in there, and they've been doing some major renos on it the last year or so. And they're putting an addition on there. I think it's another pool they're adding. The original structure opened back around 1981, I'd like to say. And it has that familiar domed roof. I'll kind of walk through here. I'm sort of curious. So through here, there's lots of picnic tables, green space. So there's that fabric roof. Now, if I remember correctly, it was a German design. And I was fortunate enough to get in there during construction around 1980. They didn't have much in the way of a barrier except some plastic on the main floor, and my friend and I around midnight crawled through it, and everything was lit up. And it might have been a couple of months before opening, and a security guard caught us, and then I asked if we could take the catwalk all the way across the arch inside, and he let us. So that was really cool. And we were buzzed out of our tree. I was back in high school. I think we came out of a movie. At that time, all the cinemas were downtown. There was none in the suburbs. Now that seems to be where they're all located. There's another entrance to the park up here, and I'll just shoot up here quickly. And they've introduced frisbee golf here maybe 2 summers ago. I think this might be the second summer only. Some pros and cons to that. Those heavy discs, as long as people tossing them are careful, wouldn't want to get hit in the head by one. And that's downtown straight ahead. I'll just kind of pan over here. And this path will take you east towards the Stampede grounds, and eventually it'll tie into the Bow River. There's over 1,000 kilometers of bicycle and footpath paved within the city, so it interconnects really well. In fact, I rode my bike last summer all the way from where I live downtown here to Fish Creek without really ever having to go on a road. It was all path, dedicated path. And that's all the way to the other end of the city. So I think even Montreal, which is a much bigger city than Calgary, I think we have about the same 1,000 kilometers of path in each city. So that is kind of cool. I think Calgary now, if you Google it, it says 1.3 mil, but I think we're closer to 1.7, maybe pushing 1.8 million. There's a tree that's fallen there. That's St. Mary's Cathedral, downtown, Calgary Tower. And that's St. Mary's High School. That's just the back parking lot. And straight ahead is an old train station. It's now closed. So this was at one point, I think, part of CN Rail, this bridge. Of course, they've resurfaced it, but they laid the original rails back in. And way up to my right there used to be a tire swing. Oh, I see they've already got the Ferris wheel set up for Stampede, which is only two or 3 weeks away. Yeah, there was a tire swing that a lot of us used to hang out at a little ways up here. I don't think it's there anymore. I'll cross back over here. But yeah, just an awesome park, nice and close. There's so many condominium and apartment dwellers. This part of the city is the most densest populated within Calgary because of all of its high rises and low rises. In any given block, you might have 1,000 people living in a block, so in one city block. And with that being said, there's still no hospital. No government hospital. Just a lame excuse for an ER called Sheldon Schumer. So, and they've actually got the stop there. That's where I guess they would have done a switch or backed out. Maybe 25 years ago there was no fence here, because I have photos of my dad in there, standing in here. Right here, actually. He would have stood on the grass with downtown in behind him. That's now home to, I think, the Alberta Ballet Company, the entire train station, and that sandstone portion at the end. I'm not sure if this was the station master's home, but it was dilapidated and really in disrepair for many decades. They fixed it up perhaps a decade ago. And there's a convent straight ahead. That's been there since the late 1800s. And initially this part of the city was a French settlement. So there would have been a lot of French Catholic. And it is still functioning as a convent. I'm going to go back in the park now. So yeah, the walk along the river here is quite nice. Lots of trees, it's beautiful. And it is probably a half-hour walk to the other side of the Stampede grounds below Scotsman's Hill. And at some point I'm going to go up there this spring. It is still spring. Mid-June or thereabouts. I think it's maybe the 18th. Yeah, I'll just give you a look at the path here. And when the flood did come through here, this was all covered. This was like one big lake. Even part of the path was all covered. Of course, the mechanical rooms and the pool were totally destroyed. Stampede grounds were totally flooded out, including the Saddle Dome. And the flood happened, I think, June 23rd, 2013. And the waters did not recede for at least a week. A little less than a week, because the Stampede opened. I cannot believe the first week of July they had the Stampede. They had everything cleaned up here. And believe me, at that time, halfway up these trees, there was debris from people's fences, intermodal trailers. Everything was strewn through this park. It was a disaster. Every tree had debris wrapped around it. And they had it all cleaned out. I can't believe they got the Saddle Dome cleaned out, but the pool was closed for the better part of a year. Because of course a lot of the electrical and everything was damaged in the pool mechanical room. It was totally submerged. That was a nasty flood. And it not only impacted this part of the city, but all over in the northwest, especially around Bowness, the Bow River. Crazy. And I actually uploaded some really cool footage of that. I got to walk into areas before they were closed off by the city, and I took a lot of footage. And that's on YouTube in 3 different parts, including a preliminary when they were building a berm that proved to be useless because the sewage backed up and flooded a lot of homes. Mom and I were here last summer and we had a little sit-down picnic over there. But yeah, there's no shortage of green space in this city. Lots of picnic tables here. Going back 30 years ago, they actually had little fire pits, like little barbecue stands next to each table. But they did away with that at least 20 years ago. Other parks in the city, of course, have them. Some parks even have fire pits, but many of the parks have little barbecue. So that's the bridge I came in on there. Let's just take a walk down here. Yeah, super low. Somebody camped out there. They actually have a lean-to. Yeah, I don't recall it being this low. I mean, usually it would be at least 5 feet more of water. Floyd used to really like walking along here too. There's a little path there. Whenever I come down to the river like this, these little monkey trails we used to call them, it reminds me of growing up as a kid in Winnipeg. Along the Assiniboine, we'd ride our bikes along there, but they were a little longer. Yeah, you could go for a long ways along those trails. When we lived in Westwood, you could go all the way almost towards downtown. This is one of my favorite spots. Seems a lot more overgrown. A couple of years back, these suckers weren't growing here. You could get a better view of the river. And I'm going to wander back up this way. So again, in behind that fence is the pathway I walked towards the beginning of my video. Now I'm going to hang a left here and head east. And after the flood, there used to be an older apartment over here, and it was totally destroyed. So they put, it was a really nice, maybe 5-level, I think it's an apartment, right there in the middle of my frame. Some really cool properties over here. And they've got a couple of boats over there, pedal boat and a rowboat by the looks of it. So yeah, and during the flood, all of this was covered. And these condos over here, that pretty much looked like Venice at that time. It was just covered in water. Wow, they're really doing a number on the old Lindsay Park Aquatic Center, hey? Jeez. Major construction zone. I'll have to go online and look that up to see what scope or what they're doing. Yeah, there's a lot of overgrown suckers. I guess they let nature take its course now. There was once a time they wouldn't. They would trim all this. But there are a couple of cleared areas coming up in a viewpoint. But yeah, these condos, when they went up back in the mid-90s, there was a huge fire and many of them were burned. It was proved to be arson. That was when they were under construction. I think there's at least 4 or 5 blocks of these row type. Like if you walk down the front of the street, it's very British inspired. Oh, look at all the geese. Holy cow. Look at that, eh? And the babies, goslings. I missed them when they were young, when they were little yellow fluff balls, but big families. So that must be an apartment. I used to think it was a single dwelling home, but it looks like the condominium, and there's a shared dock and patio. Yahoo! Getting ready for Stampede. Huh. Look at this old tree, dead tree. And the water is like a little pool. It's quite deep here. I'd imagine it'd be good for swimming. So after the bend, the turbulence picks up. It's more shallow there. Yeah, they had a good idea putting a dock with some boats. They got the perfect depth here. And they built this infill on the end of these row housing. There was actually an old home here that was part of the original Earlton. There used to be a lot of older homes in here. I should have mentioned that. And they put this infill in within the last couple of years. They tore the old house down. Yeah, look at how still that water is, but it's really deep. And this is the Elbow River. I think I might have mentioned that. That time of the year when all these fuzzies, fluffies, that's the, from what I understand, it's, most of them are from the female poplar. Might be from the aspen as well. Not sure. But where I am now is maybe 12-minute walk from where I live. So I'll give you an idea. You can see the row, how many blocks. So straight ahead, way at the end, there is Earlton, Stampede Earlton LRT. These row housing sort of things continue all the way up to there. I'll just see if I can get a shot. But all of these places, their basements were flooded, as were each unit has an underground parking. Each unit. So just devastated. And I can remember watching one guy pull his junk out all wet and muddy, family photos and everything. It was sad. He lost so much. Right? You can see how long these row housing structures go. All the way here, many blocks. So when we get to this bridge, this is 25th Avenue. And my dad, before he passed away in May, he was living just to the right, maybe a block and a half, 2 blocks up at a care facility, assisted living, until May 9th, at which point he was taken to the hospital and then hospice, where he died on May 23rd. We got him a scooter, a mobility scooter, and we'd really hoped he would have enjoyed this. I mean, we were both being optimistic. We knew he didn't have long to live. He took it out a couple of times in April. There was no foliage at that time. It was kind of, you know, dismal, ugly spring, no leaves, no flowers, and that was sad. I really had expectations that Dad and I would be out enjoying this kind of weather. I was hoping he would have made it to Father's Day or his birthday, but no. So that on its own is very sad, not to mention how much pain he went through before he died with cancer. And sometimes this underpass is totally covered in water and they have it closed with this gate. It could go up and over. I don't want to interrupt traffic. And on hot days, you'll see people rafting down this river. It's just full. People like laying out there on their blankets, sunning. So now we've officially left Lindsay Park. We're going to be entering the area, neighborhood of Earlton. Actually, we are in Earlton. This is all Earlton here. I'll just do a quick shot. There's downtown. And this is east, so Stampede Grounds where that big Canadian flag. I always thought that was kind of disproportionate for the size of that pole. Goodness, I was in Mexico City and they had a pole half that size and the flag is about 20 times that size. So yeah, very disproportionate. Yeah, the flag in the Zocalo in Mexico City is massive. So now we're in Earlton. Most of these homes as you enter are infills newer. Even this one, they tried to make it look old, but to me it's a tacky eyesore. They tried a little too hard. And I actually prefer these more kind of contemporary, kind of minimalist cubist sort of. Back in the early 70s there was a lot of homes that looked like that. But I like them. I prefer it more than that. And if you were to go down here, there's a lot of older homes going back to the early 1900s, as well as further up the hill along the right. As you can see, there's a lot of infills there, newer ones. Look like condos. Now we're going to enter Roxboro Park, and the two parks are literally 5 minutes apart. I've always liked this older home on the end. They have a really cool setup in their backyard with a fire pit, and this place is beautiful too. I don't know if he sustained any damage, this fellow. The houses that I just passed were not there during the flood. They were older homes. But this guy's house is beautiful. I'm just going to go up here and see if I can get a shot of downtown. And I can actually see it from here. No poison ivy. Yeah, there's a portion of downtown. Barely make out the Calgary Tower to the right there. And we'll continue down this gravel path. So when I lived in North Van for a short spell back in the 80s, I was there for like a month. The friend I was staying with had a backyard a lot like this with the fire pit and everything, and it was just overgrown, and that's what this kind of reminds me of. North Vancouver. Mid-80s. I guess it was right when they were getting ready for Expo 86. I was there maybe a year before. And again, along here during the summer on a hot day, you'll see people on their blankets. Sun tanning. Dozens of rafters. Sometimes I pause it before people. I don't want to impose. Unless I'm out in a busy area and there's hundreds of people, and who cares, right? Yeah, what a beautiful little park this one is too, Roxboro. There's some tenters camped out there. Now, I'm sure that it was required to upgrade for sewage in this area, but what an eyesore. Yeah, thanks. It's a pump station. Used to be a house maybe 8 feet tall, little building. Now they built this massive structure, this big brick building in front of me, and you could only imagine how that must have impacted property value, because there's some really nice homes around here. I'll take a walk through the park here. I'll take a look at the river. Pretty sure there was a picnic table here a decade or more ago. There's one to my left. And they really beefed up the side of the river here after the flood in 2013 with these boulders. Most of them have always been here, but a lot of these that I'm standing on now were brought in to help prevent erosion when the turbulence picked up and the level of the river was up. It's a good depth for rafters, but it would be pretty slow through here. Come July, it'll be moving a little quicker. Yeah, look at all these fuzzy cotton looking things. Thankfully, it's only a couple of weeks of that. So you take a look at these nice homes and this freaking eyesore pump station. Unbelievable. It's crazy the city would put it right here. If anything, they could have put it back a little further. Oh, there's my phone. So up there, there's a path that leads up to the ridge. Now, there used to be a lot of little domesticated bunny rabbits. I guess people had them as pets for years. And of course, that's when they let them loose, they just flourish, right, in the inner city parks. And that's a good food source for coyotes. So there was an abundance of coyotes that used to hang around in these trees. And they would send one coyote down the trail. And if there was somebody with an off-leash dog, they would lure it up the trail and then the coyotes would kill it. So that's one of the reasons they eradicated those little bunnies. There's still wild jackrabbits and hares, but... So yeah, look at this thing. Roxboro lift station, so that's a pump system in there. And there's a beautiful home across the street. I can only imagine what the homeowner thought when he saw that going up. There was $100 grand off my property value or more. But it's just a beautiful neighborhood through there. Lots of, I'll just walk in a little bit. Lots of classic homes. Mostly older homes. Along the right hand side, some of these houses were affected by the flood. Some overcame it. Others were demolished. I think if you can make out those fuzzies blowing in my face. Looks like snow. It's not. I won't walk too far up here. So yeah, there would have been a house here. Now it's just a, and that's not accessible to the public. The city has all this stuff fenced off, but that might be privately owned by a homeowner. But this space right here, this was all houses. I think there was 2 or 3 homes here, and they were leveled. But no trespassing, no dumping, no river access. The city or province of Alberta, they won't even let you go through there, right? Yeah, but there was some nice old classic houses here. And there's a mix of old and new. There's a brand new infill going up here. Now, I have some video footage from several years ago, so I think I'd be able to remember what was there. And down these streets this way, more beautiful homes. I think these are elm trees, I think. Might be wrong. Anyways. Yeah. Get the idea. We'll head back to the park. I love the tree canopy that covers the street through here. That's nice. So I decided not to go through the park that way. I'm going to walk up this street. Even the sidewalk I'm walking on is 100 years old. They've replaced sections of it, but this is the original with the grid marks. This one's new. You can just see these beautiful old homes through here. And this is called Roxboro. I like the fact these 100-year-old trees are still here. Incredible. And when I get up to the end, I'll make a left and go through the park that way and head back towards Lindsay Park. I'll just shoot back this way. Yeah, beautiful canopy. It gives so much charm and lowers the temperature significantly when you're walking through here. Look at this tree. Very classy older homes, and they're all well looked after. And into the next block it's more of the same. As with to the right there's another street, and to the left, and those birch trees have seen better days at the end. So I'm going to cross. Oh, this birch tree, this weeping birch is beautiful here. But these ones here are being chopped down. And we got some tennis courts here. And in the wintertime they have a little rink set up on the other side of it. Well, there's like a little community center over there, a little house over there too. So it's a relatively small inner city park, but it's nice. And it offers lots of shade on a hot sunny day. So this is Roxboro Glen Road and 30th Avenue Southwest in downtown. Those buildings aren't part of downtown, but way beyond that is downtown. And this is new. Well, I wasn't here a year or two ago, this enclosure. And up on top of that ridge is more houses. That road, when I entered Roxboro, that went straight up that hill, that would take you up there, that road, and there's more homes. And the old Shaw Communications Tower is up there, as well as cemetery, Chinese cemetery, and the other one on the other side. Yeah, I don't really like this. Ugly with that frost fence. What the hell? Again, they could have put it further back. Why do people have to look at that out their front window? City planners are, pardon my expression, fricked. I would swear normally, but I don't want my video blocked or censored, or, you know, limited to who can view it. Yeah, that's just another eyesore. At each end of the park, you got that pump station and this frickin' thing. It's turning out to be a beautiful day. Ah, it's been beautiful ever since I left. A lady over here walking her dogs. And when my dad was first diagnosed with cancer, I came and I sat here, and I remember, I think I called my mom that day and said that he has cancer, and I would have sat right here. at that time. Hello. Hi there. There's that crow. That's a magpie. I got them in stereo. Yeah, this looks like something out of some weird B-movie science fiction thing, you know, Logan's Run or something with Sean Connery, Zorad or whatever the hell that was called. Expect that to start lifting up and flying away like some spaceship in a forest. It looks really, really out of place. Or I think it was called Zod. Z-O-D, that's Sean Connery. Sci-fi flick from the early 70s. I don't know, that just comes to mind when I see a nice park with trees and then some big monolithic ugly structure like that. Yeah, lots of people with their dogs out here. All right, I'm gonna start heading back. I might shoot another clip or two on the way back, but I'll try not to video the same thing. Or maybe I will shoot a little bit of this walking back. Maybe I'll catch downtown in the background. There. Part of it. So you caught a little portion of downtown there. I live in between where I am now and downtown. Relatively close. So as I mentioned in my Father's Day video on the 15th of June, Dad and I, as he got older, he couldn't walk as far, but he loved coming down to this part of the city where I lived, and we would just either take our bikes out on the path or go for a walk. The last time we went for a lengthy walk would have been maybe 2 summers ago, and we walked right through here. Pretty much everywhere I just walked. Roxboro, Lindsay Park. And I remember we sat in both of these benches. We initially sat here because there was somebody there, or was it the other way around? But we did sit in both. We had a coffee and we sat here. So that would have been 2 summers ago. Yeah. Nice landscaping in those yards. So yeah, my dad and I sat here on more than one occasion. And Fountains of Mission, where he lived up until shortly before he passed, is just up the way here. But I won't walk by there. I'm going to go underneath the bridge here again. Oh, it's a 2-foot drop. Seeing a lot of this coming in, going out. Yeah, and after the flood, I remember walking through here and commenting, because it took out some trees, and they brought these boulders in after the flood, these gray ones, to kind of beef up the shoreline. There was no trees here. So everything you see in front of me has grown in the last 12 years, all these suckers that are now trees. It was quite barren to the left here. Wow. I always shoulder check before I cross over. You never know if there's a bike zipping along. And the nice thing is you don't get that low river smell. You know, that fishy smell when the water recedes. I don't notice that. So calm, a river. Always look both ways. So I am essentially walking the exact same way, but in the opposite direction. And I missed a little lookout up here. At least I don't think I stopped there. I mentioned it, but I didn't go in there. It's just to my left. There we go, lookout point. Wow, it's even quite overgrown. At least they keep it a little bit trimmed back so you can see the river. I'm surprised that apartment was never impacted by the flood. A couple of the ones further up on the bend were. But these ones where the river was basically running fairly straight were not impacted. It's just where the bend was. They were kind of wiped out. I'm not sure what height to hold this. It's about chin level now. Oh, there's only a few geese there now. Mama and Papa Goose by the looks of it. With the young. Yeah, in a way I wish they would cut all these suckers back. Give us a view of the river. They did in years past, but anyway.